The sun shines brightly on a Sunday afternoon. The market near the waterfront is bustling with people. Minho doesn't come here often, but today he had a small matter to resolve. He walks with Seokjin, who keeps a step behind him. Minho is dressed in simple dark pants and a sweater, but his posture and cool, assessing gaze betray a man accustomed to power. He looks ahead, thinking about the upcoming meeting. Suddenly, his gaze catches on something. It stops. The entire noisy crowd seems to lose focus. A girl sits on a bench next to a persimmon stand. She's chewing on a cotton candy and animatedly chatting with a woman, probably her grandmother. The girl has dark, curly hair pulled back into a fluffy ponytail, and eyes. His heart beats sharply and loudly once, as if stumbling. The girl's eyes were light, incredibly light, the color of pure cold water, almost transparent, a shade rarely seen in Asia. And he had only seen eyes like those once in his life. They seemed to glow from within against her dark skin. The girl laughs, and those sky-blue eyes squint against the sun. Minho can't move. He just stares. The blood rushes in his ears, drowning out all the sounds of the market. His entire world, strict and controlled, suddenly narrows to a single point. Those eyes. Seokjin, noticing that the boss has stopped, looks at him, then in the direction of his gaze. He frowns, not understanding anything. The girl finishes her cotton candy, jumps off the bench, and takes the elderly woman's hand. They turn and walk the other way, disappearing into the crowd. Minho says quietly, but very clearly, without even turning his head towards Seokjin. His voice sounds strange, muffled. Seokjin nods instantly and steps forward to follow the couple unnoticed. Minho remains standing in the middle of the crowd. He slowly raises his hand to his chest, as if checking his heart. It beats quickly and irregularly. He arrives at his office on the top floor of an office building. The view of the city is panoramic, but Minho doesn't see it. He sits in a chair, his elbows resting on the desk. The space in front of him is empty. The image of those eyes floats through his mind again and again. And other memories come to him, old ones. The ones he locked away in the deepest drawer of his mind. Iris. Her smile was as bright as the sun. She'd appeared in his life unexpectedly 6 years ago. He'd been different then. Younger, more passionate, less firmly gripping the reins of power left by his father. She was an exchange student studying Korean. They'd literally bumped into each other on the street. She'd dropped her books, and he'd helped her pick them up. She didn't know who he was. And that was the beauty of it. To her, he was simply Minho, a shy, slightly reserved young man with surprisingly calm eyes. He never talked about his family or his business, and she didn't ask. She was his complete opposite. Open, loud, infectiously cheerful. They spent only a few months together. Secretly, he gave her simple things. Walks in the park, coffee from a vending machine, bus rides to the outskirts of town to look at the stars. He laughed more sincerely than ever. She called his eyes her treasures, rare and special. And then she disappeared. One day. No call, no message. Her number wasn't answered. The dorm said she'd urgently flown home for family reasons. He searched. He tried to trace her through his networks, but his influence overseas was weak. He was met with silence. First there was rage, then pain, then emptiness. Over time, he convinced himself it was just a beautiful story, a mirage. He dove headfirst into business, becoming what he is now, a cold, calculating leader. Until today. Until these eyes on a child's face. Seokjin returns 2 hours later. He enters the office without knocking. He has that right. Found it, he says briefly. Seokjin is a man of action. Tall, fit, with an attentive gaze. He's been with Minho for years. Minho looks up at him, a silent question in his gaze. The girl's name is Lila. She's 7 years old. She lives with her grandmother. Her mother works 2 shifts as a nurse at the city clinic. They arrived in the city 6 months ago. They live modestly. Seokjin places a thin folder on the table. The girl's address, work schedule, and school. It's all here. Minho doesn't move toward the folder. He stares into space. Mother? His voice is hoarse. Mother's name is Iris Carter, Seokjin says clearly. The air in the office seems to thicken. Minho slowly leans back in his chair. Yes, it is. This is not an accident. This is not a figment of my imagination. Iris. He quietly repeats the name he hasn't spoken out loud in years. It burns his lips. Is she alone? He asks after a pause. According to the records, yes. There's no information about the child's father, Seokjin says. He studies his boss's face. He'd seen photos of Iris from an old case many years ago. He has a hunch. Minho closes his eyes for a second. The puzzle comes together in his head. Iris is gone. Now she's here, with her daughter. With the daughter who has his eyes. The girl is 7 years old. The math is brutally simple. He opens his eyes. There's no longer any confusion in them. There's an icy, focused fury and determination. I want everything. The entire history for the last 7 years. Where she's been, what she's been doing. Everything. And analysis. His voice is hard as steel again. He gestures to the folder. Priority number 1. Put everything else aside. Seokjin nods. He's already turning to leave when Minho adds, looking out the window. And Seokjin, be as careful as possible, so no one notices. Especially them. The report is in front of him the next morning. It's voluminous. Seokjin and his men worked quickly. Minho flips through the pages. Photos. Iris in a white coat, leaving the clinic, tired. Iris on the playground with Lila, laughing. A girl with a school bag at the school. And then the facts. A 7-year story. Iris left Korea pregnant. She gave birth to a daughter in her homeland, the United States. She lived with her mother. She worked and studied to be a nurse. The child's birth details. The father's name is blank. The most important document is at the very end. It's not an official document. It's the result of a private request. A genetic analysis based on samples Seokjin's men surreptitiously collected yesterday. A hair from the girl's jacket, left on the bench, and the cup Minho drank from. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. Minho pushes the folder aside. He stands and walks to the window. His face, reflected in the glass, is perfectly calm. But inside, everything is clenching into a tight, heavy knot. He breathes slowly and deeply, trying to get a grip on himself. He has a daughter. She's 7 years old. He didn't see her first steps, didn't hear her first word. He doesn't know what she likes for breakfast, what her favorite cartoons are. 7 whole years of emptiness. And then another thought occurs to him. Iris. All this time she was alone. She worked alone, raised a child alone. She didn't come to him. She didn't ask for anything. She simply took his daughter and disappeared. Minho's face. His hand clenches into a fist. He feels anger, hot and blind. At her, at himself, at the lost years. He turns from the window and looks at the photographs laid out, at the picture of Lila laughing, at her bright eyes, his. The anger slowly recedes, leaving behind a cold, aching emptiness, and a vast, all-consuming feeling he can't name. It's something new, something fragile and sharp. He sits in silence for a few more minutes. His gaze wanders over the photographs, the numbers in the report. A multitude of questions arise in his head. Why did she leave? Why didn't she tell him? What did he do wrong? He could have provided for them all. She knew who had a family. She saw his house, his cars. But she chose to leave and work double shifts. Minho feels his anger rising again. He's always been in control. But this situation, these 7 years, are completely out of his control. He became a father and didn't even know it. He's been deceived, or rather, simply left in the dark. He stands up and begins to slowly pace the office. His footsteps echo dully on the parquet floor. He thinks about the girl, about Lila. She is not to blame for anything. She simply lived her life without a father. Who answered her questions? Who protected her? Her grandmother and her tired mother? A new feeling arises in him, sharp and unfamiliar. A sense of duty. He owes something. To her. He has missed too much. He cannot turn back time, but he can change the future. Minho stops at the table. He places his palms on the glass tabletop and looks at his hands. Strong hands that hold an entire city in fear, but they have never held his daughter. The decision comes instantly and definitively. It's ironclad. All negotiations, all plans, all cautious approaches are cancelled. Now, he dials Seokjin's number. Car 5 minutes. We're heading to the address on the report, he says, not waiting for a greeting. There's a brief pause. Boss, maybe you should first. Right now, Minho interrupts. His tone brooks no argument. He hangs up. He won't wait. He won't send letters or lawyers. He won't give her time to prepare or to disappear again. He's slept for 7 years. He won't sleep another day. He grabs his jacket from the chair and puts it on. He glances in the mirror. Before him stands not a lovesick youth, but the head of an organization. Stern, impenetrable. That's exactly how he should be right now. He leaves the office, his steps quick and firm. The way back is cut off. The car, a black sedan without any identifying marks, glides smoothly through the streets, moving away from the center. Seokjin is at the wheel. Minho silently looks out the window. The luxurious neighborhoods give way to ordinary residential areas. Then the outskirts begin. The houses here are smaller, older, with more empty space between them. They turn onto a narrow street. Seokjin slows down, checking his GPS. Over there, the gray house with the green fence, he says quietly. Minho looks. A small one-story house, modest but well kept. 2 pots of flowers stand on the porch. A light can be seen through the thin curtain in the window. Minho's heart starts beating faster again. But this time it's not shock. It's anticipation. It's determination. 7 years of questions will end now. He will see her. He will see his daughter. The car stops at the curb in front of the house. Minho doesn't move immediately. He looks at the door. Behind that door lies his entire past life, the one he thought was dead, and his entire possible future life, the one he never even dreamed of. He takes a deep breath. His face becomes a stony mask. All emotions are hidden deep inside. On the surface, only cold concentration. Wait here, he says to Seokjin without looking at him. He opens the door and steps outside. The evening air is cool. He adjusts the cuff of his jacket, a purely mechanical movement. His steps echo loudly on the asphalt. He crosses the narrow street. He approaches the gate in the green fence. The click of the latch seems very loud to him. He walks down the short path to the porch. 2 steps up. He finds himself in front of a wooden door. From behind it comes the soft sound of a television and some children's laughter. Minho pauses for a second. His hand slowly rises. He doesn't ring the doorbell, which is out of sight. He clenches his fist and knocks on the door several times, firmly and rhythmically. The sound of the TV inside fades. Silence falls. Then cautious footsteps are heard. Approaching the door, Minho straightens up, his gaze fixed on the crack in the door. Everything inside him freezes in anticipation. The door opens. The door doesn't open all the way, just the width of the chain. A woman's face appears through the crack. It's Iris, but not the Iris he remembered. Her features are sharper, more mature. Fine lines of fatigue have formed at the corners of her eyes. She's wearing simple sweatpants and a t-shirt. She holds a tea towel in her hand. She looks at him. At first, her gaze simply glides over the stranger on the threshold. Then it stops on his face. Her eyes widen. All the color slowly drains from her cheeks. Her face turns completely white, like paper. She doesn't breathe. Her fingers grip the edge of the door so tightly that her knuckles turn white. At first, there's emptiness in her eyes, complete incomprehension. Then, this incomprehension gives way to a wave of pure, undisguised horror. She recognized him. No, she whispers silently, only with her lips. It can't be. She tries to slam the door, but her movements are slow, as if she's in a dream. The chain prevents her from doing so. Minho stands still. He sees every nuance of her panic. It confirms everything. She's afraid of him. She's not happy to see him. Iris, he says, his voice low and muffled in the evening silence. Open the door. This is not a request. It is a quiet but iron command. A child's voice rings out from the depths of the house. Mom, who's there? Is that the postman? There's movement behind Iris. A small figure appears from behind her legs. Lila. She's peering out from behind her mother, hugging her leg. The girl looks directly at Minho. Her large, light, sky-blue eyes study the stranger with genuine, childish curiosity. There's no fear in them, just a question. Those eyes, so close, looking straight at him, leave Minho speechless. All his anger, all his resolve, melts for a moment. He sees himself reflected in them, and something of Iris, a shape, a cut. Iris turns sharply to her daughter, instinctively trying to shield her with her body. Lila, come into the kitchen, please, she says, her voice shaking even as she tries to steady it. But Lila doesn't leave. She keeps looking at Minho. Has she seen his photos? Does she sense something? Or is she simply attracted to the strange man at the door? Minho and the girl look at each other through the chain and through Iris's pale, frightened face. It's a quiet, heavy moment. His daughter is 2 steps away from him. She's alive, real. She has his eyes. Please go away, Iris whispers, looking at him pleadingly. Her eyes fill with tears. Go away now, Minho says calmly. His gaze switches from Lila to Iris. You can open the door, or I'll ask my assistant to help. The choice is yours. He doesn't want to scare the girl, but he won't leave. Iris bites her lip. She realizes he's not joking. She looks at him, then back at Lila. The struggle on her face lasts for a few seconds. Then, with a dull click, she unfastens the chain and steps back, allowing the door to open. They're in a small living room. Cozy but modest. A baby blanket lies on the sofa, and a coloring book is on the table. Iris persuaded Lila to go to her room, promising to explain everything soon. The girl left reluctantly, constantly glancing back at Minho. He stands in the middle of the room, too big for the space. Iris stands against the wall, her arms crossed over her chest, as if defending herself. How did you find us? Is the first question she asks. Her voice still trembles. That doesn't matter, Minho replies. He doesn't take his eyes off her. What matters is what I found. 7 years, Iris. 7 years. His voice rises on the last words. Despite his best efforts to remain calm, he takes a step forward. You were pregnant, and you just disappeared. Not a word. Not a single sign. I have a daughter, and I didn't even know it. Iris closes her eyes for a moment. When she opens them, there's a weariness in them that's older than her years. I was afraid, she says quietly. Minho's voice is filled with bitter confusion. Everything, she blurts out. She releases her hands. Your world, Minho. Your family. Your job. I wasn't blind. I saw the cars, the people following you. I heard you talking on the phone. I found out who you really are. She hugs herself again, as if she were cold. I was alone, in a foreign country, pregnant with a mafia man. What was I supposed to do? Come to you and say, here, I'm carrying your child, now protect us? You would have taken control of me, or your enemies would have found us. I saw the way you saw the world. There's no room for weakness. And a child is the greatest weakness. I decided we'd be safer away from all this. Far away, she speaks quickly, abruptly, and all these words seem to have been stored inside her for many years. Silence hangs in the room after her words. Minho looks at her, his rage boiling inside, hot and black. You took everything from me, he says, each sound a struggle. The first cry, the first tooth, the first day of school. You took away my right to know her. You took away her father. I gave her a chance at a normal life. Iris raises her voice, the old determination gleaming in her eyes. Without fear, without security, without constant danger, I worked 2 jobs to give her everything. Have you asked me what I want? His voice becomes a dangerous whisper. Have I given you any reason to think I wouldn't want my child? That I wouldn't protect him? He comes very close to her. She doesn't retreat, her chin raised. You didn't give me a reason, Minho. You were the reason. Your world is a reason. I loved the guy you pretended to be with me, but the real you scared me, and it still scares me. These words hit home. He recoils as if struck. He sees the truth in her eyes. She truly was afraid. Afraid of him, his life, his essence. At that moment, the door to Lila's room quietly opened. Her face appeared through the crack. She heard their voices. She looked from her mother to the strange man. Her light eyes were wide with worry. That look, full of childish anxiety, cools Minho's ardor like a bucket of ice water. He turns away, runs a hand over his face. He shouldn't scream like that. He shouldn't see this. Lila slowly walks out of her room. She doesn't approach her mother, but remains standing in the middle, between them. She looks directly at Minho. The silence in the room becomes very loud. The girl picks at the hem of her blouse with her finger. Then she raises her clear, direct gaze to him. Are you my dad? She asks quietly, but clearly. The words hang in the air. Iris freezes, her hand reaching for her daughter but stopping. Minho stops breathing. He looks at this small, fragile girl, asking the most important question of her life. He sees himself in her. He sees Iris. He sees 7 years of emptiness. All his angry speeches, all his accusations, all his rage. All of it crumbles to dust before this simple question. He slowly drops to one knee to be level with her. He doesn't want to appear so big and intimidating. Yes, he says. His voice sounds hoarse and unfamiliar to his own ears. I'm your dad. Lila looks at him silently, processing this information. She doesn't smile. She doesn't cry. She simply studies him. Why didn't you come earlier? She asks the second question. Minho's throat tightens. He glances quickly at Iris. She's standing there, her hand over her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't know where you were, he tells Lila honestly. But now I know. And I've come. There's an awkward pause. The noise from the street seems very distant. Iris is the first to come to her senses. She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand and takes a deep breath. Lila, please go finish your drawing. The adults need to talk for a bit, she says, her voice under control again, albeit very tired. Lila nods, but before leaving, she glances at Minho again. There's more to her gaze than just curiosity now. There's something new, something bewildered. As the girl leaves, Iris turns to Minho. What now? You came. You saw. What do you want? Her tone is defensive again. Minho stands up. His knees are a little numb. He feels out of place in this small, warm room. I want to know my daughter, he says simply. I want to talk. I'm not just going to leave. Iris looks at him for a long moment. Then, as if her strength was failing her, she sinks onto the sofa. Dinner's cooking in the kitchen. Just pasta, she says into the distance. If you're hungry, you can stay, just for a little while. This isn't an invitation. It's capitulation. She's too shaken to fight any longer. Minho nods. He takes off his jacket and carefully hangs it over the back of a chair. They eat in the small kitchen. Lila sits between them. She periodically steals glances at Minho. Iris is silent. Minho. He tries to eat, but the food seems tasteless to him. He watches Lila carefully twirl pasta around her fork. He listens as she tells her mother about something that happened at school. He sees their ordinary life. He is an outsider here, an intruder. But when Lila, carried away by her story, accidentally touches his hand with her small one, he freezes. This simple touch burns his skin. This is his daughter. She is here. She is real. The evening passes slowly, in a heavy but sometimes touching silence. Iris is washing the dishes. Lila is drawing again. Minho sits in the living room and looks at her. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to be a father. When it gets completely dark, Minho realizes it's time to leave. He stands up. Iris immediately emerges from the kitchen, wary. Lila looks at him. Are you coming tomorrow? She asks. The question is simple, but it makes Minho's heart beat faster. He looks at Iris. She presses her lips together, but doesn't say no. If your mother allows it, he answers cautiously. I'd like to come. Lila glances at her mother, full of silent pleading. Iris closes her eyes for a second and nods. Just once. Barely. Okay, Minho says. He puts on his jacket. He feels ridiculous, like a giant in this small apartment. See you tomorrow. He goes outside. The night seems very black after the warm light of the house. He gets into Seokjin's car. Seokjin asks, seeing his thoughtful face. Leave 2 people here, Minho says quietly, looking at the illuminated window of the house. Let them watch. Day and night. Discreetly. No one can know they're here, and no one can approach them without my permission. Seokjin glances at the house briefly and nods understandingly. Got it. The car starts moving. Minho looks out the window. Images whirl in his head. Iris's white face, Lila's direct gaze, the small kitchen. He's no longer just Minho, the head of the organization. He's a father. This new sign changes everything. His every decision must now take into account the 2 people in that gray house. The next day, Minho arrives in the afternoon. He rings the doorbell. Iris opens it. She looks even more tired, as if she hadn't slept all night. Where is Lila? He asks. At school. I work the evening shift, she replies shortly. You didn't tell me you'd be home so early. I wanted to talk. Without her, Minho says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. They're back in the living room. Iris doesn't sit down. About what? About security. I have people around your house right now. 2 of them. They'll be changing shifts. They're here to make sure no one else disturbs you. Iris's face contorts with anger and disappointment. What? No! You couldn't! You promised to leave us alone! I didn't promise that, Minho retorts coldly. And this isn't to control you. It's to protect you. My world, as you call it, doesn't forgive weakness. Now that I'm here, you've become a target. My people will ensure that nothing happens to you. This is exactly what I was afraid of, she screams. You bring your danger to our doorstep. We lived quietly for 7 years, and in one day, you destroyed everything. You lived 7 years without a father for my daughter. He raises his voice in response. I won't let anything happen to you. This is not up for discussion. This is my home, my life. You have no right. Her eyes filled with tears of rage. I have every right when it comes to my daughter's safety, Minho says, his tone final. You may hate me for it. You may be afraid, but they will remain. They will be unnoticed. Lila must never know about them or feel threatened. That's my condition. They stand facing each other like two adversaries on a battlefield. Between them lies a chasm of 7 years of fear, mistrust, and a new, fragile reality. Minho knows he's just crossed a line, but in his world, there are no half measures. Protection must be absolute, even if the objects of protection hate the very thought of it. Iris reluctantly agrees to go for a walk. She stands on the porch and watches Minho and Lila walk to the car. Lila holds her father's hand. It was her initiative. Minho froze at first in surprise, then carefully squeezed the small fingers in his palm. He takes her to a large central park. He puts her on a swing. At first, he pushes her awkwardly, too hard, and she squeals with delight. Then they go feed the ducks. Lila chatters nonstop. She talks about her best friend Sophie, about how she dislikes broccoli, about her dream of becoming a cooktis, a veterinarian. Minho listens silently. He asks short questions. What else? Why? He learns that she loves animals but is afraid of big dogs, that she likes to draw dinosaurs, that she wants to learn to ride a bike, but they don't have one. He observes her character. She's not shy. She's curious and asks him questions in return. Where do you work? Do you have a dog? He answers evasively but honestly. I have a big office. No dog, but maybe someday. She laughs loudly and infectiously when a pigeon tries to steal a whole piece of bread from her. Her laughter tickles his heart. He sees himself in her, his stubborn chin, and Iris, her wide, open smile. As they walk back to the car, she takes his hand again. I liked it, she says simply. Me too, he replies. And it's true. For the first time in years, he feels not control, but simply a calm, warm connection. He brings Lila home late at night. Iris opens the door, and she's already in her robe. Lila, tired and happy, rushes to her mother to tell her about the ducks and the swing. Iris looks at Minho over her daughter's head. There's less panic in her gaze, but still plenty of caution. Thank you for bringing her home on time, she says formally. Mom, can Dad stay for tea? Lila asks, looking at Iris with pleading eyes. Iris hesitates but nods. Okay, but not for long. It's time for you to go to bed. Lila goes to brush her teeth. Minho remains in the kitchen. Iris silently puts on the kettle. The silence between them is tense, but not as hostile as the first day. She's a good girl, Minho says, looking at his hands on the table. I know, Iris replies quietly. She leans against the counter, crossing her arms. She looks out the window at the dark street. She was always sunny, even when things were hard. Minho feels a familiar pang of guilt. You should have told me, he says, but without the previous fury. Now there's only a tired bitterness in his voice. Iris turns to him. Her face looks very tired in the light of the kitchen lamp. What would change, Minho? Would you give up everything? Stop being who you are? Say to your enemies, sorry, I have a daughter now. Let's live in peace. He can't find what to say, because he knows the truth. No, not then. 7 years ago, he was a different man. Tougher, hungrier for power. I would have protected you, he insists. That's the only thing I ever believed in. That you would protect us. Locked us in a golden cage, watched over by your people. Like now. I didn't want that life for her. I wanted her to be free. The kettle boils. Iris turns away to make tea. Her shoulders tense. I didn't know it would hurt so much, she says quietly, as if to herself. Seeing the way she looks at you, how happy she is. For 7 years, I was everything to her. And now she has you. There is no jealousy in her voice, but a deep, old sadness and fear of losing her daughter. Minho stands up and approaches her. Not close, but close enough that she's forced to look at him. I don't want to take her away from you, Iris. I want to be a part of this. A part of your life. She looks at him, and finally, there's no fear or anger in her eyes, only weariness and doubt. Your world and our life, they don't fit together, Minho. Sooner or later, one will destroy the other. I dread that day. He wants to say something, to refute it, but he can't, because part of him knows she might be right. He puts the envelope on the table. This is my direct line. Just you. Call any time. If anything. He leaves, leaving her alone in the kitchen with 2 mugs of undrunk tea. 2 days later, Seok-jin enters Minho's office without his usual reserve. His face is serious. Boss? Problem. Minho puts the papers down. Which one? Chang-min's people. They found out about the girl. It's just rumors so far, but they're already digging. One of their men was asking questions this morning near Lila's school. Our guys pulled him aside, but the fact remains. A chill runs down Minho's spine. Chang-min is his old rival, tough, unscrupulous. If he realizes Minho has a weakness, what exactly did he ask? Minho's voice was calm, but inside, everything was clenched. He asked if the black car often came to pick up the girl, who the man was, who was walking with her. Little things, but the direction was clear. Minho slowly stands and approaches the window. His city, his domain. And now there's a tiny, fragile speck in it, one that could destroy everything. Increase surveillance. Double it, discreetly, and find whoever asked the questions. Bring them to me, politely. I want to talk. Understood. As Seok-jin leaves, Minho glances at his phone. He needs to warn Iris. But how? Tell her that his worst fears are coming true? That her fears were justified? He arrives at their place in the evening. Lila is already asleep. Iris opens the door, seeing his serious face, and silently lets him in. What happened? She asks immediately, without preamble. He tells it, briefly, without embellishment. About Chang-min, about the questions at school. He sees how with every word he says, she hardens. See, she whispers when he finishes. I told you. Your world has found us. My world was always here, Iris. You just didn't want to see it. But now it's noticed you. And I can't ignore it. He pauses, looking her straight in the eyes. You have to move in. With me, in my house. There's security, high walls, a security system. It's the safest place. Iris looks at him with disbelief, as if he's asking her to move into a cage. No, never. This is exactly what I've always been afraid of. This isn't a prison. This is security. He raises his voice, trying to get through to her. Do you think these people will just ask questions? If they realize Lila is my daughter, they'll use her against me. The easiest way. Is that what you want? I want to live a normal life. She practically screams back. Normal life ended the day you gave birth to my child, he snaps. Now there's only safe life or dangerous life. Choose. They stand in the cramped hallway, breathing heavily, like 2 boxers between rounds. I'm not going, Iris says firmly, and you can't make me. We'll run for our lives like last time. You won't escape this time, Minho says coldly. My men will follow you anywhere. For your own safety. Better to be protected in one place than to be a tumbleweed with a tail of guards. She realizes he's right. She's trapped. Her eyes fill with tears of helplessness. Please don't do this, she whispers pleadingly. But in his gaze, she sees unwavering determination. He's made his decision, and this time she won't be able to convince him otherwise. The decision is postponed for a day. Iris hopes Minho will come to his senses. But the next day, an incident occurs. Lila's grandmother usually picks her up from school. That day, as they walked out the gate, 2 men in casual clothes approached them. They were smiling. One of them handed Lila a piece of candy. Hi, girl. We're friends of your dad's. He asked me to give you a gift. Come with us. We'll give it to you. Grandmother, an experienced and vigilant woman, immediately realized something was wrong. She tightened her grip on Lila's hand and tried to move away. But the men blocked their path. Seok-jin emerged from around the corner. He walked quickly and, without further ado, stood between the family and the strangers. I think you have the wrong address, gentlemen, he said quietly. but clearly, the girl will not be coming with you. The men took one look at him, realized they were no ordinary passerby, and muttering apologies, quickly left. Seokjin immediately drove Lila and Grandma home and called Minho. Minho arrived 15 minutes later. Iris opened the door. Her face was gray with fear. Lila stood behind her, hugging her mother tightly around the waist. The girl was crying. "Mom, I was scared," she sobbed. Iris looked at Minho. All her anger, all her resistance vanished. Only the pure animal fear of a mother whose child is in danger remained. They knew her name, Iris said quietly. They knew her name. Those words were the last straw. Minho walked over and crouched down in front of Lila. "It's okay. You're safe. Those guys won't come again," he said firmly, looking her in the eyes. He looked up at Iris. "Do you understand now?" he asked without reproach. She nodded silently. Her shoulders slumped. She had lost. How temporary?" she asked, barely audible. "Until I sort this problem out. Until I'm 100% sure you're safe," he answered honestly. Iris closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and looked at her daughter again. "Okay, we'll go, but only for a while. And Lila has to go to her school. And see her grandmother." "Deal," Minho immediately agreed. He was willing to accept any terms, as long as they were safe. The move happens quickly. Minho has a large, modern house on a gated property. It's bright, spacious, and impersonal. Like a designer hotel, Lila is given a whole room. Minho, not knowing her tastes, ordered a neutral interior, light walls, a large bed, an empty closet. Iris silently brings in their things, a few boxes. At first, Lila is delighted by the size of the house and the spacious garden, but by evening, she becomes quiet and pensive. This isn't her home. It smells foreign. Iris is tense as a string. She walks through the house, studying it with the gaze of a jailer. She sees the cells, the guards at the gate, the high fence. Everything she feared has become reality. Minho tries to act like a host. He shows them around the house, telling them to make themselves at home. But it rings false, even in his own ears. A heavy silence hangs over dinner in the vast dining room. The clatter of cutlery seems impossibly loud. Lila picks at her food, barely eating. "I don't like this room. It's too big," she finally says quietly. Iris gives Minho a reproachful look. "Like, see," Minho says, but there's no confidence in his voice. "Tomorrow we'll buy you whatever you want. Toys, posters, everything." Lila nods without looking up. After dinner, Iris puts Lila to bed. Minho remains in the living room. He feels like a stranger in his own home. His home is now filled with quiet reproaches and childish fear. Iris leaves Lila's room. She pauses in the doorway. "She was crying. She said she wanted to go home," she says without emotion. "This is her home now," Minho answers stubbornly. "No, this is your fortress, and we are your prisoners. You have achieved your goal." She turns and goes into her room, assigned to her next to Lila's. The door closes with a quiet but distinct click. Minho is left alone in the vast, quiet living room. He's achieved his goal. They're safe. But why does this feel like defeat? Seokjin delivers the report 3 days later. Minho studies the report in his home office. The house is quiet, with Iris's quiet footsteps and Lila's laughter echoing through the walls as she slowly begins to settle in. "It's clear," Seokjin says, pointing to the photo. "Chang-min, he's not hiding. He's angry about the port fiasco last year. He thinks you played him unfairly. Now he's found your weak spot." Minho looks at a photo of an elderly man with a hard gaze. Chang-min. Their rivalry lasted for years. A cold war for influence, for territory. Minho had almost forgotten about him, focusing on expanding his legitimate business. But the old wolf hadn't forgotten. "He's acting brazenly. His people aren't professionals," Seo-jin continues. "That incident at the school was an attempt to intimidate you, a reconnaissance operation. He wants to understand how vulnerable you are." "He realized it," Minho says grimly. "We moved. It's a clear signal that family is my sore spot." He pushes the folder aside. Now the threat has a name and a face. It's both easier and harder. Easier because the enemy is known. Harder because Chang-min is no small-time extortionist. He's stubborn, angry, and resourceful. Minho doesn't sleep that night. He sits in the darkened office, looking out the window at the illuminated garden. His decisions used to be simple. Threat? Eliminate. Competitor? Weaken or absorb. He acted quickly, harshly, without hesitation. Now everything is different. Any move he makes will reflect on Iris and Lila. A direct attack on Chan Ming will trigger a war, and they'll find themselves at the epicenter. Escape? They've already fled to his own house, and it didn't help. There's a third path, the one he's been trying to pursue lately. Legitimate business, a clean reputation, but Chang Min plays by the old dirty rules. He won't enter into business negotiations, knowing Minho's weakness. Minho stands up. His shadow falls on the wall. He makes a decision. He must deal with Chang Min, once and for all, but not using the old methods. He must bring him to light, neutralize him, using his own insolence against him. He must protect his family without stooping to the level of the enemy, because he is a father now, and he must set an example. In the morning, he calls Seokjin and his most trusted lawyers. Lila is slowly getting used to the house. She's found a library with tall windows, and now likes to sit on the windowsill there. That's where Minho finds her after dinner. She's drawing. This time, not dinosaurs, but a house. A small gray house with a green fence. Is this our old house? Minho asks cautiously, sitting down next to her. Lila nods, not looking up from her drawing. I miss it, she says quietly. Minho feels a pang in his chest. You don't like it here? It's too quiet. And you can't see anything over the fence. And there was a park across the street, and I saw the neighbor's dog. She puts down her pencil and looks at him with her bright eyes. Dad, are these bad guys because of you? Because of your work? The question is as direct as a blow. Minho wants to lie, to cover for her, but he sees in her gaze not childish fear, but a need to understand. Yes, he answers honestly. Because of my old job, I had disagreements with some people. And they want to hurt us so they can hurt you? She puts it so simply and so terrifyingly precisely. Yes, but they can't. I won't let them. Lila looks at the drawing. Mom's scared. She thinks I don't see, but I do. She hardly smiles anymore. Minho doesn't know what to say. He places his hand on her small one. I promise you, Lila. I'll make it all right. Those people won't bother us anymore, and your mother will smile again. I'll do everything in my power. She looks at him, searching his face as if searching for the truth. Then she nods. Okay, I believe you. These simple words are more valuable to him than any oath of allegiance from his people. 4 people gathered in the office. Minho, Seokjin, and 2 lawyers. Mr. Kim and Miss Joan. They were studying the file on Chang Min. He's cunning. What greed is his Achilles heel, says Miss Chong, pointing to the financial flowcharts. That's his weak spot. Semi-critical deals with shipping companies. He likes cash and avoids banks. There's a lot of irregularities here. Can we set him up legally? Minho asks. Not set him up. Give him an opportunity to make a mistake, Mr. Kim corrects. Create a decoy. A highly profitable but urgent deal that requires a large cash flow. His greed will force him to act quickly without due diligence. We'll make sure the authorities take notice. The plan is complex and multi-step. They need to create a shell company, contact Chan Ming's trusted confidant, and entice him to join. Everything must appear completely legal and natural. The risk, says Seokjin, is that he might suspect a trap, or he might decide to take a simpler approach by putting direct pressure on you. So I have to be visible, Minho says. I have to act normal, go to meetings, be available. He has to see me and think I'm unaware, that I'm busy with other things. He looks at the plan. It's a game of chess, where the pieces are people, companies, money, and the safety of his family is at stake. He can no longer afford to lose. The bait is laid 2 weeks later. Through a series of intermediaries, Chang Min receives an offer he can't refuse. A contract to transport expensive electronics with minimal customs checks for a huge cash kickback. Everything looks slick, but the profit is too high. Minho is playing his part. He appears at public events, gives interviews about expanding his legitimate business, and appears to be fully immersed in legitimate entrepreneurship. He even mentions in one interview that old disputes are a thing of the past. He knows his every word reaches Chang Min, and Minho's apparent relaxation should lull the old man's vigilance. The key meeting regarding the deal is scheduled for neutral territory, a conference room in a business center in the downtown area. Officially, these are negotiations between Chang Min's transportation company and a fictitious decoy firm. But Seok-jin receives information that Chang Min will be arriving in person to oversee everything. He's taken the bait. Minho is in his office nearby that day. He's waiting. That's the hardest part. Doing nothing, just waiting for the enemy to enter the trap. Everything happens quickly. At the appointed time, Chan Ming's men appear in the conference room with a suitcase of cash. They are met by a representative of the partner company. The final negotiations begin. At this point, people enter the room, but they aren't competitors. They're financial police and tax officials. They're led by Ms. Chong, carrying a folder of documents. The reason for the investigation is receipt of information about possible financial irregularities and money laundering. The search begins. They confiscate a suitcase full of cash, documents, and phones. Everything is legal. Everything is according to the rules. Chang Min, who was in the next room, bursts into the hall in a rage. He shouts, threatens, and demands that his men be released. He is filmed. His words are recorded. Minho watches this through a hidden feed set up by Seok-jin. He sees Chan Min's face, red with rage, turn to the camera, as if sensing his gaze. "It's you!" the old man screams. "This is your doing!" Minho has no connection to this deal, just a purely random investigation. The legal machinery is slowly starting to creak. This isn't the end for Chan Min, but it will mean enormous problems. Frozen accounts, investigations, trials. He won't have the time, resources, or desire to think about revenge on Minho. He'll be saving himself. The fight is over. Minho won without landing a single blow. He used the law as a weapon. But Chang Ming is an old beast. Before he was taken away, he managed to give a quiet order to one of his trusted men who had just escaped. Revenge must be swift and personal. As Minho walks from his office to his car one evening, he's attacked. Unexpectedly, violently. It's not a staged brawl, but a real street fight. His security guards react instantly, but one of the attackers manages to stab him with a shank. A sharp, burning sensation spreads down Minho's side. He falls to one knee, but his men are already surrounding him, neutralizing the attackers. There's noise, shouts, and the sirens of approaching police. "Boss!" Seok-jin leans over him, his face contorted with worry. "Home," Minho says through clenched teeth. "Just not to the hospital. Home, with my own doctor, and quietly." He doesn't want to scare Leela. He doesn't want Iris to find out that his plan had a price. He's brought home through the Fiyu service entrance. His personal doctor, Seok-jin's man, is already waiting. The wound isn't life-threatening, but it's deep and painful, requiring stitches. Minho gritted his teeth as the doctor worked. The door to his room quietly opens. Iris stands in the doorway. Seeing Minho's pale face, the blood on the sheets, and the doctor, she freezes. Horror momentarily contorts her features, but she quickly regains her composure. "What happened?" she asks quietly. "An accident," Minho croaks. She looks at him, and he sees understanding in her eyes. She knows it wasn't an accident. The doctor finishes, gives instructions, and leaves with Seok-jin. Iris approaches silently, takes a wet wipe from the nightstand, and gently wipes the cold sweat from his forehead. Her touch is gentle, but her hand is shaking. "Leela?" he asks. "She's asleep. She doesn't know anything." Minho closes her eyes, feeling weak from the blood loss and relieved. She's asleep. She's safe. Iris sits on the edge of the bed. She doesn't leave. She sits in silence, and Minho feels her presence like something warm and solid in a room filled with pain. Old feelings, buried under layers of anger and fear, stir within him. But right now, he's too weak to analyze them. He simply looks at her profile in the light of the nightlight and falls asleep. The next day, Minho hides his pain by wearing loose clothing. He goes out to breakfast, moving a little slower than usual. Lila, busy with her porridge, doesn't notice. Iris notices. She silently pours him some tea and places it in front of him. Their gazes meet. There's no longer the icy fear or accusation in her eyes. There's anxiety, weariness, and something new, recognition. After breakfast, Lila goes to watch cartoons. Iris approaches Minho, who is standing by the window, leaning sideways on the sill. He won't be a problem anymore? She asks quietly, referring to Chang Ming. No, he has other things to worry about now. For a long time. She nods, looking at her hands. You could have done it easier, the old way, but you didn't. I promised, he says. And I'm trying. To be different. For her. For you. He sees her throat tremble. This house. These walls. They still frighten me, she admits. But yesterday, when I saw you, I realized I wasn't afraid for our freedom. I was afraid for you. This confession changes everything between them. I'll do everything so you don't feel like you're in prison here, Minho says. You can walk, go anywhere. The guards will just accompany you without interfering. School, parks, cafes. Your mom can come visit whenever she wants. She looks at him with a long, searching gaze, as if seeing for the first time the man she once loved. Give me time, she finally says. This will all happen. Very quickly. We have time, he replies. We have all the time in the world now. For the first time in weeks, he sees the corners of her lips twitch in the semblance of a weak, tired but real smile. It's not trust yet, but the seed has been sown, and that's enough for now. The idea comes one Saturday morning. Sunlight floods the dining room. Minho watches Lila dig into her bowl of porridge with her spoon. What if we all go somewhere together today? He asks, looking between Lila and Iris. Outside the city, into the countryside, without security nearby. Just us. Lila freezes. A spoonful to her mouth. Her eyes grow wide. Really? For a picnic? Iris, washing dishes at the sink, slows. She turns, studying his face. Is it safe? She asks quietly, but there's a glimmer of something long forgotten in her eyes. Anticipation. Seokjin will check the place. The guys will be at a distance. They won't even be visible, I promise, Minho says. He's speaking more to her than to his daughter. Lila's burning gaze. Fine, she says, and adds with a slight, barely perceptible smile. But only if we make the sandwiches ourselves. They're driving Minho's car, not the black one, but a simple SUV. Lila sits in the back, constantly commenting on everything she sees outside the window. Iris silently watches the fields pass by. Minho drives, an unusually calm expression on his face. The location is a clearing near a small, clear lake, an hour's drive from the city. The security cars are parked by the main road. They are alone. Sunshine, grass, silence broken only by birdsong. They spread out a blanket. Lila immediately takes off her sandals and runs to the water, carefully wading in ankle-deep. Iris shouts at her, "Careful!" But there's no panic in her voice, only simple maternal concern. The day flows slowly and simply. They eat sandwiches. Minho tries to teach Lila to throw flat stones in the water like a pancake, but he's barely able to do it himself, and they both burst into laughter. Iris sits on the blanket and watches them, and the tension gradually leaves her shoulders. She even dozes off briefly in the sun, and Minho covers her with a light jacket. Nothing special happens. They don't talk about anything important. They simply exist in the same space and time. Lila picks wildflowers and gives her mother a bouquet. Minho gets water from the car, and their fingers accidentally touch. He sees Iris not pulling her hand away. As the sun sets, they pack silently. Lila falls asleep in the back seat almost immediately, smiling in her sleep. There's silence in the car, but it's not awkward. It's peaceful. Iris looks out the window at the darkening fields. Thank you, she says quietly, without turning her head. It was a good day. Yes, Minho agrees. Very. This day becomes an anchor, proof that simple happiness between them is possible. Several days pass. Minho's wound is healing. Iris sometimes comes into his office in the evenings to ask about Lila or his daily life. Their conversations have become longer, calmer. One such evening, as they're discussing transferring Lila to a school closer to home, the conversation trails off. Minho glances at Iris. She's standing by the bookcase, leafing through a book, the light from the desk lamp softly falling on her face. I never forgot you, he says suddenly. The words spill out, unplanned. All these years. You just lived here. He puts his hand to his chest. Iris slowly closes the book and places it on the shelf. She doesn't look at him. Minho, I'm not saying this to pressure you or to justify my anger. I just want you to know that for me, this wasn't a fleeting affair. And now, Now I look at you, and all those feelings are still there. They were just waiting. She turns to him, her face serious. We've changed, Minho. I'm not that naive college girl. You're not that mysterious boy I fell in love with. We're Lila's parents, and there are 7 years of pain and mistrust between us. I know, he says. He moves closer, but doesn't touch her. I'm not asking to erase the past. I'm asking for a chance to start over. Not like then, like now. As adults who love their daughter and who might still feel something for each other. He sees fear and hope warring in her eyes, an old wound and a new, fragile opportunity. This chance, it scares me more than your enemies, she admits honestly. Iris avoids being alone with him for the next couple of days. She's focused on Lila and settling into their new home. She started working remotely, helping with translations at a clinic, and it's giving her back a sense of independence. But one night, Minho finds her in the kitchen. She's sitting at the table with a cup of cold tea, staring out the dark window. Can't sleep? He asks quietly. She flinches, but doesn't turn around. I'm thinking. He pours himself some water and sits down opposite her. Waits. I want to believe you, she begins, just as quietly. I see how hard you're trying, how your home has changed, your routine. You spend more time with Lila than in your office, but she finally looks at him. But I'm afraid this happiness is fragile. Like a glass ball, beautiful, but one wrong move, one reminder of your old world, and it will shatter, and it will cut Lila first. Minho listens without interrupting. He understands her fear. He lives with it himself. I can't promise the danger will go away forever, he says honestly, but I can promise that I'm doing everything I can to minimize it, that my family always comes first now, that I'll prove to you and her every day that we can be a normal family. As normal as we can be. Iris drinks iced tea, wincing. Give me time, Minho. Just time. To get used to it. To stop expecting a catch. To see that this new life isn't a temporary respite, but the real thing. As long as you like, he agrees immediately. I'm in no hurry. I'm already here. Lila becomes the bridge between them. She's no longer shy about calling Minho daddy. She runs into his office to show him her new grade. She drags him into the garden to look at a bug she found. One day, after a fun 3-player board game, Iris goes into the kitchen to make tea. Lila stays with Minho in the living room, building a block tower they hadn't finished during the game. Suddenly, without raising her head, she asks, Dad, will you stay with us forever? Minho freezes. The sound of a kettle being placed on the table comes from the kitchen. He knows Iris heard it too. I really hope so, he answers cautiously. But it's not just up to me. Lila looks up at him with clear eyes. From whom else? From your mother. She should be happy here too. She should want us all to live together. Lila considers this seriously. She smiles more often now, she states, as if stating a fact. And she sleeps better. She used to wake up a lot during the night. She stands up, walks over to him, and wraps her arms around his neck. Her embrace is strong and trusting. I want you to stay. Forever. At that moment, Iris emerges from the kitchen. She's heard everything. There's no horror or anger on her face. There's a deep, bottomless tenderness for her daughter, and a complex mixture of fear and hope as her gaze meets Minho's. Lila's question, so simple and direct, sweeps away the last complicated barricades. It puts everything in its place. Not the past, not the fears, but the present and future of their daughter. The next morning, Minho holds a long meeting with Seokjin and his top managers. He restructures the management structure. I'll remain the owner and the boss, he says clearly, but operational management, day-to-day matters, and ongoing transactions, all of that is now your responsibility, Seokjin, and the board of directors. I'll be involved in strategic decisions, but my time from 9 in the morning to 7 at night belongs to my family. That's non-negotiable. Silence falls over the room. Then Seokjin, the corners of his lips twitching into a semblance of a smile, nods. Got it, boss. We'll get through this. This isn't retirement. It's a shift in responsibility. Minho no longer wants to be the one immersed in work 24/7. He wants to be the father who picks up his daughter from school. Maybe the husband. He tells Iris this decision over dinner. She listens silently, pushing food around her plate. Are you sure? She finally asks. This is a huge part of your life. The most important part of my life is sitting at this table, he replies, looking at her and Lila. Everything else is just a means to protect and provide for that part. Iris says nothing. But that evening, when Lila falls asleep, she finds him in his office. She approaches him and, after a moment's hesitation, places her hand on top of his on the desk. Thank you, she says simply. This light gesture, this touch, means more to him than any words of agreement. A year later, they don't live in that cold mansion, but in a new house. It's also in a gated community, but it's smaller and cozier, with a large garden and a small treehouse for Lila. Iris chose the wallpaper and furniture herself. The morning begins with breakfast together. Minho often makes scrambled eggs because Lila claims he's the best at it. Then he drives her to school, a regular, good school, not far from home. Iris has returned to work as a nurse, but now at a private clinic with flexible hours. Sometimes she and Minho pick up Lila together, and they go to a cafe or straight to the park. Their life isn't perfect. Sometimes Minho leaves for urgent meetings. Sometimes Iris wakes up in the night from an old nightmare and goes to check on Lila. Sometimes they argue over trivial things, about parenting, about plans. But these arguments quickly end because they now have a common ground: their love for their daughter and their growing strengthened feelings for each other. In the evenings, the three of them often sit together in the living room. Lila does her homework, Iris reads a book, and Minho reviews reports. Sometimes their eyes meet, and they exchange a quiet, calm smile. Changmin lost his influence long ago after a series of legal battles. The world around him is calm. Lila falls asleep in her room, filled with toys, drawings, and photographs. One of them shows the three of them in that same clearing by the lake, all laughing. She knows her dad is an important man with a serious job. She knows there's security around their house. But she also knows that dad always comes to the school party. That he's as afraid of spiders as she is, and that he holds mom's hand when they watch movies. She doesn't have just one support system. She has two. Her mother, who went through everything to protect her, and her father, who changed his world to find them and never let them go. They are a family, not the one they dreamed of in their youth, not the one they planned, but the one they have. And that's what matters most. Their life is finding a rhythm. It's no longer the anxious silence of a siege or the ecstatic novelty of the first days, but the calm, confident beating of a family's heart. Lila's grandmother, Mrs. Carter, arrives at their new home. She surveys the large but cozy house, the garden, and the well-kept kitchen. She stares long and hard at Minho as he helps her with her bag. Over dinner, she asks him direct questions about his work and his plans for the future. Minho answers honestly, without embellishment, but also without his previous sullen reserve. He talks about business, about the foundation that helps children's hospitals, and how his main project now is his family. After dinner, when Lila drags Grandma to show off her treehouse, Iris stays with Minho in the kitchen. She's testing you, Iris says quietly, washing the cups. I know, and she has every right to. Minho replies calmly, drying the plates. Aren't you angry? No, she protected you all these years when I was gone. I'm only grateful to her. Minho, a brief but tight hug as she says goodbye. You're raising a good girl. Keep it up, she says, her eyes filled with firm, well-deserved approval. This small event becomes another building block in the foundation of their new life. One day, Seokjin arrives with a report. He holds an envelope. He places it on Minho's desk in his office. From old partners in the South, an unspoken invitation. A big deal. A very profitable one. But with the old rules. Minho doesn't open the envelope. He looks at Seokjin. You know my answer. They insist. They say only you can guarantee it. That it's a return to the roots. My roots are here now. Minho points his finger at the floor, as if referring to the entire house. My answer is no. Politely, but firmly. All legal projects are open to discussion. Anything else is off the table. Seokjin nods, and the look in his eyes isn't disappointment, but respect. I'll tell you that. After Seokjin leaves, Minho finds Iris in the hallway. She's leaning against the doorframe and must have overheard the conversation. You don't even have to tell me this, she says. I want you to know, to see that the choice is always made in favor of this house, in favor of our rules. She comes up to him, takes his hand, and simply holds it in hers. This silent thank you means more to him than any words. A few more months pass. The day comes when Lila is performing in the school play. She plays a tree. She has one line. Minho and Iris are sitting in the third row of the school auditorium. Minho is filming everything on his phone, although his hands are shaking slightly. As Lila utters her single line, loud and clear, he catches Iris's eye. She looks at him, and her eyes shine with happiness and love, no longer holding a trace of fear. In that moment, he understands. They have reached the point of no return, but in a good way. There is no turning back, because he doesn't want to go back. That evening, after putting Lila to bed, they sit on the terrace. The night is warm and quiet. "I want to ask you one question," Iris says, looking at the stars. "Are you happy? Really? Not because you've achieved anything, but just because." Minho pauses. He remembers his old office, the power, the fear it inspired, the cold emptiness that awaited him at home. "Yes," he answers without a shadow of a doubt. "I've never been happier. This is a different kind of happiness. Quiet, solid, like the ground beneath my feet." She turns to him. "Me too. I've stopped waiting for everything to fall apart. I'm just living and enjoying every day." He puts his arm around her shoulders, and she snuggles into him, resting her head on his shoulder. They are silent. They no longer need words. Everything important has already been said. Everything important has already been lived. All that remains is to continue moving forward. Together, 6 months pass. Their life takes on a solid, familiar shape. Every Saturday morning, Minho and Lila go to a nearby cafe. It's their ritual. He orders an espresso, she orders a cocoa with marshmallows. She tells him about school, about her friends, sometimes just silently doodling in a notebook, while he scrolls through the news on his tablet. They may not speak, but this time is sacred and unbreakable. One day, when Lila went to the restroom, the bartender, who already knew them by sight, smiled. "You have a good team, Mr. Kim." Minho simply nodded, but something warm and calm inside responded. "Yes, the best." Iris is gradually returning to herself, the cheerful, open girl she was before fear paralyzed her for years. She's signed up for yoga classes and sometimes goes to the movies with her friends from the clinic. One evening, Minho, staying late at a board meeting, returned home and heard loud laughter coming from the living room. He peeked in. Iris and Lila, wrapped in the same blanket, were watching an old comedy and laughing until they cried. He leaned against the doorframe and watched them, and realized that this was the most valuable asset he'd ever had. Sometimes Seokjin comes over. He's no longer just an assistant, he's become a family friend. He brings Lila little souvenirs from their trips and might stay for dinner. He notices the change in Minho and acknowledges it with silent respect. Once, when they were alone in the office, Seokjin said, "They've changed you, boss." "For the better." Minho replied, "They've brought me back to myself. The past hasn't disappeared. It lives quietly in the safe confines of memory." Occasionally, Minho wakes at night from an old nightmare, a feeling of emptiness, of loss. But now he turns over and sees Iris sleeping, hears Lila's even breathing from the nursery, and places his hand on the wall of their house, and the past recedes, dissolving into the solid reality of the present. Lila's teenage years lie ahead, along with potential difficulties and simply life itself, with all its ups and downs. But now they have an unshakable foundation, a love that grew from the ashes of fear, and a home built not on fear, but on trust. They are a family, and that's enough for any future. Another year has passed. New habits, new traces of life have appeared in their home. On the refrigerator, next to the children's drawings of dinosaurs, now hangs a calendar with Iris's notes on shifts at the clinic and Minho's business meetings. They've learned to balance. On Sundays, they often have breakfast together in the kitchen, and it's noisy, cheerful, and crumbs are everywhere. Minho still isn't very good at making pancakes, but Lila insists his are the best, simply because they're dad's. Iris laughs at this slight ineptitude, and he no longer winces, but smiles in response. One evening, Lila, getting ready for bed, brought her diary into the living room. It was an assignment. Write about her family. She read aloud, "I have a mom who is the kindest and strongest, and a dad who is the most reliable. We're like a team. Sometimes we argue, but then we make up because we have each other. Iris looked at Minho, and tears welled up in her eyes, but they were tears of quiet, absolute joy. Minho simply hugged them both, holding them close. No income reports could compare to that simple, childish line. Now, when Minho returned home, the first thing he heard wasn't silence, but voices, music, the sound of life. He took off his jacket and went not to the office, but to the living room where he was awaited. Sometimes the whole family played board games, and Minho, to everyone's delight, would lose with comical seriousness to a 7-year-old girl. They didn't make grand plans. Their future was built on small, solid days like these, on morning cups of coffee stolen from each other, on watching stupid TV shows together, on quiet conversations in the dark after Lila had already fallen asleep. They no longer ran from the past or feared the future. They simply lived in the present. And this present, this simple, genuine happiness, was enough for them for the rest of their lives.